as I said, we've got obviously Mary, Sophia and Susanna who join us from our speaker slots this morning, thank you. And we've got some new faces here, so could I just ask you to introduce yourselves, starting with Marcella?
Okay, well, thank you, first of all, for having me here today. My name is Marcelo, I'm a lawyer from Brazil, and we assist foreign companies doing business in Brazil, exporting to Brazil, or investing in Brazil. And whenever something goes wrong, we are there to assist, or of course to prevent risks and help you to get in Brazilian market in the best way possible. And so I'm based in London and have partners over there. We are based in São Paulo and Belo Horizonte, two of the main Brazilian places, Brazilian cities. And okay, I'm glad to be here to join this panel and help you with some practical issues.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Obviously, we've already heard from Malaysia this morning,
yeah.
But so following on in SK's footsteps on the promotional trail for Malaysia.
All right. So I'm Ame. I'm a Deputy Director for Malaysia Investment Development Authority. We are part of a Malaysia High Commissioner in London. So as a Malaysia Investment Development Authority, we are assisting and facilitating foreign investors that wanted to invest in Malaysia. So how we are saying about the facilitating and also promoting investment. So we can provide some sort of the advisory what Malaysia could offer to the foreign company that wanted interest to invest in Malaysia, and how we're gonna facilitate you as a businesses who want to invest in Malaysia. So we could provide you with some sort of a business facilitation, like talent management, like assisting in terms of facilitating, connecting with the stakeholder in Malaysia, just to ease of the way how to doing business in Malaysia. So this is just to reduce the risk of for you in enter to the Malaysian market.
Yes, thank you very much. And we're also joined by Bob Sawes. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Kate, and thank you, Dr. Alona, for inviting me. Good morning, everyone. My name is Bob Sawes. I represent Aldair International. We're a business intelligence company. What does that mean in this context? Well, you've heard from our colleagues from the embassies and wider forums and networks. If they're the magnifying glass, placing a focus on the market, we are the microscope. We are those that go both proactively ahead with you as the organisation to identify the opportunities and critically the risks of foreign direct investment, and then reactively, as things start to hopefully go in your favour, we will support you with enhanced due diligence across your value chain, and if it goes wrong, we often work with lawyers like Marcelo to investigate what's happened, why it's happened, and what can be done about it. It's great to be here. Please ask me all the questions you possibly can. I'll be delighted to answer them.
Okay. So shall we just carry on with that sort of British trait and maybe start with you, Bob?
Sure.
Where do businesses get it wrong? We like to
Yeah.
sort of be a bit gloomy in Britain and think about the risk. Where do you see businesses get things wrong?
Well, thanks, Kate. So I suppose the first thing to start with is that it's exciting, right? Emerging markets, frontier markets, there's huge opportunity out there. But as SK said at the beginning, plan for the best, hope for the best, plan for the worst, okay? And it's that proactive mindset that is so often lacking in organisations as they go forward and start to understand and investigate. They often know someone, they've got maybe one deal, an emergent opportunity, and they're pulled headlong into that investment without perhaps taking the pause to say, okay, who are these people we're working with? Where is the money going to come from? Are they actually who they say they are? They're working for the government, that's great. Are they the right side of the government? Are they subject to, let's call it political oscillation, cultural nuance? Is there a process risk about engaging with these people, either formally in the government or informally in the industry or sector that you're hoping to exploit as part of your investment opportunity? And that's where we see it go wrong right at the beginning, is that they get forward, they maybe have some early success, it's all looking too good to be true, and then suddenly it isn't. And actually it turns out that the person they're working with does not have the government connections. They do not have the license or the procurement license to provide to you. And that you've sunk your cost, your competitors have moved in behind you because they have taken that pause for breath to understand, and then you're behind the curve. That's the primary risk. The second is around the value chain and the suppliers, where reputational exposure comes to the fore. A lot of our clients find themselves working with people that they trust, and we heard about the importance of building friendship up front. But who is behind those friends? Are they sanctioned? Are they working against the interests of your organisation? And again, by the time the ink is wet on the deal, it may be too late. And when the chickens come home to roost, you then need our services to unpack it and working with the lawyers to extract yourself from the situation.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, I was going to say,
Well,
leading on to
yeah,
our other legal
and
representative on the panel.
Okay, thank you. As you said, information I think is everything, right? When you got to go to emerging markets like Brazil and so many other countries that we've been talking about here. And I would add also the business behavior of the local company. Who are the shareholders, right? And are they having problems with suppliers? Are there lawsuits going on against that company? How are they in terms of taxation, labor obligations? Also, environmentally speaking, is also important, right? To get to know in order to have a safe environment, let's say.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that's it. We talk a lot about ESG, and rightly so.
Yeah.
But what are the risks of ESG? They're not just reputationally in terms of you're doing business with someone that perhaps doesn't follow your line on child employment laws or your ethics in terms of environmental degradation. That's one thing, but it's the operational impact that could undermine your business opportunity that underpins a lot of it. So understanding that up front and being prepared to act dynamically as the situation changes, absolutely critical.
So thinking about Amir, what you and Mida do, what support is there available for companies who are maybe taking their first steps into export? What could you guys offer in terms of making sure that they get the best possible footing to mitigate these risks?
Right, so I think for Malaysia per se, so I think the best way how to enter Malaysia is first create the network. You need to find the best partner and also the best network that you have in Malaysia. And the first thing is a government agency is one of it. We are here in London to provide you this platform. You can connect with us, we can provide you platform how to enter Malaysia in the best possible way. And that was the first one. It's more about the promotion. It's about the advisory that you can get from the Malaysia government agency. The second part about the stakeholder. Each businesses that you wanted to invest in Malaysia or you want to undertake in Malaysia will require some sort of licensing. Like I first speaker talk about licensing, about the permit or even some sort of approval that you require. So we as a government agency could provide the advisory. This is some sort of a license that you need to have. You need some sort of a permit that you need to have, or this is some sort of a requirement that you require for you to undertake a business legally in Malaysia. So this is where we can provide this kind of facilitation. This is what we call as a pre-investment or pre-business before you do business in Malaysia. But once you already undertake your business in Malaysia, we also could provide, we call it as a post-investment. If it's you are looking into expanding your businesses, you wanted to meet some sort of next supplier, we could become a bridge for you to talk with another company. If let's say you are looking on the investment direct to the other MNCs in Malaysia like Intel, AMD, or even Malaysia-owned company, so we could provide this kind of network facilitation for you. You can come to us, we can open the door for you. Okay, this is the person, we can connect you directly. You are free to talk to them to explore your businesses. Even if let's say you have a problem with the talent, you become very hard to find a specific talent for your establishment in Malaysia. We could provide to you as well as MIDA in providing a platform. Try to get the best talent for your company to operate in Malaysia. So, in a nutshell, MIDA could provide from end-to-end services for the company as a government agency for you to do business in Malaysia.
Thank you. Thank you. And I guess same question to you, Susanna. Obviously, we heard a lot about Peru as a country, but specifically around kind of the embassy and the support that you could get for kind of moving on to the next steps of investigating trading in Peru. What support is there available?
Well, so from the embassy, we have given also like the general overview, the general treaties that are in force now, which gives the framework for businesses to trade or invest there in the country. But here in the UK, in London, we also have our trade office. So what I can do is like to make the connections with our trade officers, and they have like the specialized knowledge to give some guidance to particularly fulfill formats, and also to engage with the government institutions there in Lima. So you can all start doing businesses with Peru.
Fabulous, thank you. And same question to you, Sophia, for Portugal.
Well, Portugal is not the exception. So, as it was previously mentioned, we also provide this kind of support. So, from A to Z, so from the moment you start thinking about either investing or also exploring some kinds of partnerships in Portugal, we can provide you different kinds of information for your analysis, but also put you in contact with the right person in the different organizations, businesses, and as it was mentioned previously, even after deciding to invest or set up an operation in Portugal, starting to explore that part, you will also continue having our support, because it will be, especially the investment part, it will be allocated a key account manager. So basically it's a long-term relationship with the company that would decide to be in Portugal.
Yes, thank you. So Mary, from a translation standpoint, it can be obviously quite daunting entering a new market. What's your advice to people who are looking to enter a market for the first time, in terms of the sort of translation support they might need to feel confident doing that?
So before they probably start, as all of these people have said, it's doing research beforehand and all the going down the hole, doing the market research and really understanding that market and the culture. And as I mentioned before, translation isn't just about the words, so it is also about the way you're speaking to your clients that reflects their cultural differences, their cultural similarities perhaps. But it is also engaging with them. So you really need to consider translation. Quite often it becomes I've got everything sorted. Everyone does their marketing in English perfectly. They get all their products sorted. They've got all their distributors in place. They've got all the logistics sorted, and then they suddenly realise, oh no, but I need my labels on my products need to be in 5 different European languages or something. And it's very last minute, and that's probably not even the most crucial. So it really is, start thinking about your translations when you start thinking about everything else that you're doing, because it really does have an impact on how successful you might be in that market.
Okay.
If I may add one point, I think when it comes to intellectual property,
Oh my goodness.
it's very important to have proper translations, because we have already seen to register like a patent or trademark, depending on the kind of description, it makes a difference, right?
Yeah, it does.
This is another good example that I think.
Yeah, definitely. And don't trust AI for translating those sorts of things. Please don't.
Okay. So obviously you sort of shared some tidbits about AI and technology. So with AI obviously moving on and becoming more advanced and more complex in its algorithms and things, how do you see that balance working longer term, or what's the trend going to look like in terms of that interaction between technology and human intervention?
Yeah, I mean it's evolving every day, like you said, and contrary to what you might all believe, I'm not anti-AI. AI, and I do think it is an amazing tool, and for translation as well. I mean, it is amazing, and like I mentioned before, it's not something that's new really in our industry. If you think about machine translation, that has been being used in our industry for quite a few years now. AI is it's developing and evolving, and it's getting better and better and more accurate. And so it's always going to be a balance, a collaboration really between using AI tools and human insight. So AI is great, and you've got to balance really what costs you've got, what budget you've got for your translations, and what good enough looks for you. You know, good enough for some products and for some parts of your content might be AI might be okay. But there are other things like IP, or there might be contractual, might be legal documentation that really it's not suitable for. And if you need anything that has any kind of emotional resonance with your clients, or cultural nuances, or any kind of tone, you really need a human input. So really what we see these days, and what we've noticed in the last 12 months, maybe 12 to 18 months ago, lots of people going, oh, well, I don't need you now, we can use AI. Now some people are coming to us and saying, we need your translations, please do not use AI. Tell me you're not using AI, we just want human. And then we get quite a lot of clients saying, okay, we want the options. How much is it for a human translation? How much is it if we use AI with some human editing? And then they weigh up what works for them. And I think that is going to be how it goes. AI is ever evolving, but it's never going to be the same as a human. Like with any role it does. AI is never going to be the same as human, not when it comes to language and culture. It's never going to be the same quality.
If I can build on that point, a lot of our work is heavily culturally nuanced. We are headquartered in London, but have offices all around the world, and I couldn't agree more with Mary's point about both the augmentation, but also the fundamental need to understand that not everything is written down and put on the internet. Marcelo was talking about records. Records are a great indication of future behaviour. You look in the past, no one's got a crystal ball. We can't see that Mr. Smith in the future is going to commit fraud or run away with your asset. But we can look in the past and see what Mr. Smith has done. And if the litigation records, the arbitration documents aren't on the internet, if they're not publicly available, if they're not in a language that's translatable by an AI, how are you going to develop that behavioural picture that tells you that Mr. Smith is a wrong 'un and you shouldn't do business with him? It's about the human intelligence, perhaps enabled by the machine, perhaps empowered by the machine, perhaps targeted by the machine, but it's the human picture that really gets under the skin of the issue that you're facing and answers that question for you. And often a question that could have significant, if not critical, meaning for your organisation and business opportunity.
Thank you, that's really helpful. So we're on a strand of AI. Obviously we've mentioned it quite a bit in terms of kind of what's happening in various countries and the tech emergence as a sector to enter into. From a Malaysian standpoint, SK kind of hinted at sort of technological kind of concentrations. How are you seeing AI in terms of that kind of offering that Malaysia has as a sector?
Right, thank you. So AI is one of the emerging technology that we are very heavily focusing on. If let's say you are browsing through about how Malaysia develop our AI, so we are attracting a lot of data center coming into Malaysia for this particular past 1 or 2 years. So even if let's say we are looking on the record of the approved investment itself, 68% of the services approval for the approved investment is coming from the data center. So what kind of data center we are attracting currently is more onto the AI related data center, which is like company like AWS, Google, Microsoft, so all investing in data center, which is focusing more on AI. And also from the Malaysia perspective, how we're going to drive AI in Malaysia. So we are also establishing one officer, we call it as a National Office of Artificial Intelligence in Malaysia. So this is a collaboration of several agency and also agency to drive artificial intelligence industry in Malaysia. So just to answer your question, yes, we have a dedicated team and also a dedicated document that how to drive and also develop our AI in Malaysia.
And obviously, Sophia, you kind of put up a very impressive roster of names of companies that have chosen to invest in Portugal. How have you seen that sort of sectoral investment landscape change over the last few years, and where do you see that going in terms of who's investing in Portugal and what for?
Yeah, definitely. I would say that in the last 10 years there's been like an increase in what we call the business services sector. And by business services, it is the area covering like shared service centers, competence centers, software development centers. And it's definitely a sector that has been growing 14% per year for the last 10 years. Currently, we have more than 270 operations set it up in Portugal from different countries of origin and different companies. And by saying companies and origin, is like some companies, for example, their main sector could be automotive, for example, but then in Portugal they have a business service center, so for providing services for the group and also developing solutions in the country. For example, Bosch is one of that examples, that over there they have more than 500 people with the R&D and software development center in the north, and over there they develop the concept and also they create the software, the structure for the automotive, the mobility of the future. But of course, Bosch is one example, but I already mentioned previously Revolut, Natixis. Well, we have different kind of examples of international companies that decided to set up in Portugal and in different types of sectors. And definitely I would say it's like one of the main sectors that have been growing in the country. Of course, there are other other sectors that are also considered for us as priority: automotive, aerospace, pharma, and bio. But I would say definitely the business services is one of the main ones.
Thank you. And again from Peru, obviously that was really interesting this morning, seeing kind of what sectoral dominance you have over there. How have you guys seen that change over the last few years, and where do you see that moving to in terms of what Peru has to offer and who is investing in Peru?
Well, so in the case of Peru, I believe that the main change has started since the 1990s, when we became like very open economy. At the beginning, I would say that it was mainly investments in infrastructure. Lately, we've moved into more the mining sector, the finance sector, also telecommunication sector. And I would say that from now to the short term or long term, we will be still focused on minerals, especially due to the energy transition priorities in the world, and also taking into consideration that the reserves that we have there in the country. And yeah, lately investment in this sector has also grown and coming not only capitals coming not only from Europe but also from China, from the US, from different parts of the world.
Thank you. So one question to all of the panel, and you can pick who goes first. What is obviously there's a lot of there's quite often some reticence, particularly with SMEs, about taking the leap to start exporting, or to even if they're already exporting, move into a new market. What is the greatest myth that you've come across that you would like to bust this morning as part of the panel? Should I start with you, Mary?
No. Give me a chance to
Okay.
think. So slow this morning.
Or maybe I'll pick on Bob. We'll start at the other end of the panel.
Pick on me. That's right. What myths have we seen? I think the myth preconception is that you can import your your Western, you can import your Western values and logical system uninhibited into the market you're going into. We've talked a little bit around it, but the cultural nuance is fundamental, and it starts with an understanding, but also a maintenance of that understanding. It's not just enough to go, okay, I'm now an expert in Peru or Brazil. I know everything about it. I've read Wikipedia. ChatGPT has taught me. I've had some linguistic support. I'm now an expert. That's not enough. You've got to maintain that intellectual edge in order to really drive the longevity of your engagement. And the way that to do that from our perspective is monitoring of the different factors. We talked about geopolitical stability and some of the country ratings in terms of that safety and the ability to have an enduring presence there. That's fantastic, but it is changing, and we've talked about the times in which we live. People talk about a perma-crisis, an omni-crisis, and that's not just in terms of climate or technology or global politics. It's the amalgamation and aggregation of that. So the myth, to come back to it, is that just having an understanding is enough. It's a maintenance of that understanding through active monitoring and a very good network that you can use to bring the issues to your fore.
Yeah, thank you. It's a really interesting response. Any volunteers?
Well, in terms of myth, I would say some companies think, well, I don't think I need to worry a lot about my contracts. I'm starting the business, I'm happy, I have a very good client in Brazil now. Everything is very good at the moment. And sometimes I see that companies forget to pay attention to important clauses concerning jurisdiction, concerning applicable law, arbitration clauses as well. What is that the best option for them, that they do need to having that kind of contract? Also, when it comes to agency agreements, Brazil is a continental size country, so it depends a lot on which part of the country you are focusing, if the entire country or in a certain region. The agents, am I having a proper contractual relation with those local agents or distributors? So talking as a lawyer, talking about some contractual aspects, I think that's something very important.
Yeah, interesting. So maybe something specific about Malaysia. Have there been any myths that people come to you with?
So people talk about Malaysia is only on the Malaysia, which is located in the heart of Southeast Asia. We are neighboring with Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam. So this is a myth on location-wise in Malaysia. People say about Malaysia, there is a 14 state, like Dr. SK said, there is a 13 state in Malaysia, 2 federal authorities in Malaysia. So where can you find the information in related where you should establish your operation in Malaysia? We have the answer from the government perspective. If let's say you are looking onto the renewable energy, you are looking onto the green hydrogen, there are some states that are very focusing onto it. If let's say you are looking onto the automotive technology, there is some state that are looking onto it. Let's say you are looking onto the services sector, family offices, shared services, there are certain states that are offering that kind of services. So please, we are here, we are assist as a government agency, a government officer, we are here to help you. If let's say you are very interested to come to Malaysia, to explore the businesses in Malaysia, please come to see us. We can try to explore with you what is your interest, where is the best for you to locate your business, where is the best talent you can get in Malaysia. We have those answers to answer your question.
Thank you. Thank you. Portugal, have you?
Well, I wouldn't say a myth, but more a misconception in the sense of some companies know Portugal, as I previously mentioned, as a good place to visit and to have a good week holiday. and enjoy the good weather, and not really knowing the country as a good location to establish their operations and to do business. And sometimes when some companies reach out to us, they are surprised when we tell them, as I showed, that those companies decide to set up in Portugal, and that Portugal ranks in sixth with a very high English proficiency. We have like the third highest rate of graduates in Europe. So there are some information, some rankings, some details that companies, for some reason, don't think about Portugal when they start thinking about exploring new opportunities. And I would say probably that's the main thing that we will see when companies reach out to us, or when we try to reach out to them and they are quite surprised with the information that we have to provide them.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. How about Peru?
So the way I'm thinking this question maybe is more like at a micro level. So regarding myths, I would say that some people think that when some country is that open to different economies, that could make this country dependent. And well, historically, South America has also been like considered as dependent of some particular big economy. So I would say that nowadays this is like the time to break that myth, because especially we are living in a very fragmented world nowadays. Peru is following or trying to implement this strategy called neutral activity, which means that we are not necessarily aligned to any particular country or any particular big economy. What we are trying to do is to be as open as possible, and what we are trying to do is like just do business, like for the enterprises to make them profitable, and for us, of course, like to gain some benefits not only in the private way but also in the social way for the country. So that would be like the myth.
Thank you very much.
Back to me.
Yeah.
Just started slowly purring.
Not forgetting, though.
So I'd probably refer back to something I mentioned in the presentation, so I don't really want to be repetitive, but it's probably the fact that for business that everyone speaks English, and that you can just rely on the fact that everyone speaks English, which is quite a lot of the time the case. People do have a high proficiency, high level of English, which, you know, puts us Brits all to shame in terms of, you know, how well other countries speak so many different languages. But yeah, the fact that you can't really rely on that, and I think a lot of businesses make that mistake, that they think everyone speaks English, I don't need to do anything. Even conducting meetings, even making the effort to speak their language, even if it's just a few key phrases, even if it's just understanding some of the cultural things that go along with language when you go to a meeting, what is acceptable, because different countries have very different ideas of what a business meeting looks like and what is acceptable. It might be sometimes, you know, being very prompt, very on time. In fact, being early is seen as that's what you should be doing, whereas turning up, you know, 15 minutes late and quite laid back could be okay in other cultures. So it really is quite crucial and understanding that, really.
Thank you very much. So time is evaporating. This is fabulous. Keep going forever. Do we have any questions from the audience? Yes.
3 points. One is culture is critical. Because I've gone to it, so I stayed with the family in Malaysia. I lived there for 3 months to get to know. But then, what is very important is protection. And Bob, and that is IP. Now, there's 2 things. If you've got like what we got, recipe, you go under the 5th patent, and that is a recipe which Coca-Cola has. To do that, you need brilliant lawyers. But when it comes to translation, it's wonderful having translations. Like when we set up with the Indian government, and we went to all the provinces, we had to deal with 121 different languages. And when you were up in the north of Pakistan there, and Bangladesh, we went out there. And that's why the advice is the most critical part is if you're going to trade, it's the culture. And they will protect you, but more important, if you're going out there just to make a quick buck, don't go. You have to give value to the country. When I had China, I got embraced because I give something back to China. It wasn't about just taking the money. And that's why in Malaysia, my company's owned 70% by Malaysian scientists. Because they came to the UK for protection. That is why it's very important. So the question is, to the panel, what do you think is the most important part of all those that I've just mentioned to this audience?
Yeah, Bob?
Well, I think you raised a very good point about intellectual property. I'll briefly outline a piece of work we're doing at the moment. Manufacturing clients in the mining engineering space has created a world-leading product for it's niche, highly focused. They've taken it to an emerging market, one of the ones you mentioned, not Malaysia, one of the ones you mentioned, and within 10 days, a team drove up to the mine head with a 3D X-ray machine and put their device, which had been years in the generation, the design, the science behind it, through a 3D X-ray machine. The plans were then taken away to a third country for reverse engineering and ultimately undermining our client with their very expensive piece of R&D and their critical intellectual property. That's the problem with which they came to us. How do we stop this happening in the future, and what do we do about it now? We're not lawyers, and as you say, there's a legal recourse here, but there are other steps one can take to protect IP that goes out with the legal recourse. By then, it's almost too late. You want to protect your commercial edge before it's exposed to that type of behaviour. And the way to do that, of course, is through a locally empowered network and a license to operate that protects you at the local level using local mechanisms.
I'll repeat one thing. We got 38 patents, and every one of them has gone through a patent box. For everybody, a patent box came out 2 years ago. It's very specialist, but that is the protection, and it's very lucrative from corporate tax. But if you go into a country, and the gentleman is absolutely right, the person spent years and years and years, and his technology is destroyed. And that's why I say you need to go to, unfortunately, if you've got, like we've got barristers, part of our team, from Malaysia, we wouldn't understand. And Malaysia and the UK, from Lincoln's Inn, the barristers there, most of them are trained and they go through there. So I would say look for, go to Lincoln's Inn and look for the barristers that are related to those countries, and I think that will save a lot of your money.
Yeah. Anything else to add on that question? Okay. Any other questions from the audience? Yes.
If I may, the first question is addressed to Mary, but I'm sorry. In cross-border contracts and legal documents, where do you see AI translation is being still short compared to human expertise?
So it's interesting actually with legal documentation. AI is actually at quite a good level with some legal documentation, but when I talk about at quite a good level with AI, you might still be only looking at 70 to 90% accuracy. And obviously with legal documentation, you cannot really have any room for error. So even in any kind of contract. So although it might have a good basis and you might be able to use it as a first draft, I think you always need to get a legal translator involved. So it needs to be someone that's got expertise either in that region, in the legal side of things, but also your client or the company needs to make sure that they've verified with a legal person, even after the translation, that this has been translated accurately, because it is so critical and there can be so many repercussions if you've got that wrong.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that nowadays the law firms in general, of course, they are using AI, but usually as a first step, and then you need a human touch after that, especially taking into account all the peculiarities that you may have concerning
That particular market.
that particular market. Yeah.
Thank you. I think we've got time for maybe one more question. If we've got any takers. Okay, well in which case I might just ask the panel just each to give kind of their one key takeaway for the audience from this morning. I'm going to pick on you, Mary.
Yeah, you start with it. I got away with it last time. Thanks, Bob. So I guess I would give some tips on how to save money, because I know that from my perspective, translation always, like I said, gets kind of left to last, and people don't want to pay huge amounts of money for
Especially
it.
SMEs, we don't like spending money.
Yeah,
So.
exactly. But it is also quite critical to success in a market, as I've mentioned before. So, but there are ways to save some money. So I would say, one, use the technologies that are out there. So AI technologies, machine translation, translation memory, which is another thing which I won't go into, but use those technologies. Make sure you're working with partners, like professional people, so you're not going to pay twice, or you're not going to have to pay again for someone to sort out the mess when you've tried to do it on the cheap. So I would definitely work with professionals, but tell them what your budget is and what you need, and they will figure out the best solution for you. And do your research. Do your research up front. Definitely, for cost savings.
Thank you, Sophia.
Well, I don't want to be repetitive, but of course, if you are looking to expand your businesses, Portugal could be the location for you, either to invest or also to find some business partners. Because although I've been focusing more in the investment part, of course, if you are looking for reliable suppliers or just partners for developing any kind of part of your business, in Portugal you can also find really good Portuguese companies that would be willing to help you in that journey. And of course, myself and the team based in London, we are more than happy to support you in that journey.
Great, thank you.
Okay, just a question. How many of you could you raise your hand? The ones who already had trade with Brazil or invested or something? Okay, so that we can see that between Brazil and UK, especially for SMEs, there is a long way ahead, I would say, comparing to other European countries. If we see that the relation is it's very old, maybe 200 years, but I see that there is a long way ahead. So think about that. I think that's a huge market with a very big potential, but of course that you need a proper assistance to getting that. That's it.
Great, thank you very much.
Right. So for Malaysia, if anyone over here is interested to explore or wanted to invest or doing business with Malaysia, please feel free to reach us, because I'm coming from the investment part, so we are assisting and also promoting Malaysia as an investment destination. We also do have a sister agency, we call it as a Matrade. They're also helping Malaysian companies that want to sell Malaysia product overseas. If let's say you wanted to source the product from Malaysia, we can assist to do that. And on the last note, next year will be a Visit Malaysia year, 2026. If let's say like Dr. SK said, please put Malaysia in your bucket list. If let's say you wanted to visit Malaysia, please feel free, meet us in London, try to explore which part of Malaysia that you can visit. We are happy to assist you and also to attest you why you need to visit Malaysia.
Fabulous. Thank you, Matt. Suzanne?
So my key takeaway will be a momentum, because I think, especially post-Brexit, we've never had this bilateral economic relationship between the UK and Peru that's thriving. I think we've never had like that many economic mechanisms or treaties that enhance trade and investment with Peru. So please do consider Peru as a new and key market.
Thank you. Last but not least, Bob?
Thank you. Look, business is fundamentally a relationship mechanism. It's people to people wanting to work together for a common goal, whether that's going one way or the other. My enduring message is know who you're working with. Really dig in and find out, who are these people? Where do they come from? What have they done before? Are they your friends, or are they working in a different angle? I'm going to leave some literature on the side there as you troop out. Please grab, and if you'd like to talk about it, I'd be delighted to have further conversation. Iterate my thanks to Dr. Elena and Kate for a fantastic discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and my thanks to you panel for a really interesting conversation this morning. Like I said, we've got a presentation next, and then we've got time for some networking lunch, so please do come and follow up with these guys and make sure you leave with their details, because it feels invaluable that we keep those connections. So please can we give a round of applause to our wonderful panel.